Welcome back to CKLA Chats. I am DLC Foster-Yankey, and in this video, I'll be chatting about 5th grade Unit 7, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Lesson 10, which is about order and rules. Right. Hey. So this lesson is divided into 6 components to make up the 90-minute reading block or ELA block, which I'll talk about each component throughout the video. The first component for the lesson is warm-up setting. For this component, the teacher is going to make 2 columns on the board with the headings Athens and Forest, and then pose the discussion questions which are listed around the screen here. Okay. The next component is writing Dear Course Smoother for 15 minutes. For this component, the teacher will tell students that the strange happenings in the forest mean the people of Athens need advice more than ever. Students will turn to activity page 10.1 and the class will read the prompt together. And the prompt says, read this letter and respond with a 1 to 2 paragraph letter to Helena. What clues from the text help you think about her questions? Use these details to support your advice. Underline the places in your response that use evidence from the play. And the letter says, Dear Course Smoother, my friends and I are having some love problems. I love a man, Demetrius, who doesn't love me. I'm working on that, but in the meantime, he and I are wandering around in the woods while he chases my good friend Hermia, who has run away here with her true love, Lysander. To make things more complicated, when I ran into Lysander in the woods, he claimed that he was in love with me. I really don't know why he would say that. I'm afraid he's making fun of me, or maybe the moonlight just makes everyone crazy. Why is he being so mean to me? Or could he be sincere? If he does love me, what should I do? He loves my good friend, who I just betrayed. I mean, it's a mess. I need a map to keep track of it. What should I do? Should I give up on love and go join a theatrical troupe or a chess club to help me forget men completely? Or turn to some other powerful person for help? Should I stay in this forest where strange things happen, or turn right around and go home to Athens? Please advise. Horrified Helena. So students complete the activity with a 1 to 2 paragraph response, and the teacher reminds them to use evidence from the play to support their answers. And the teacher can consider collecting the writing to review and mark with feedback. Right. Next, they move on to a summary of Act 3, Scene 1 for 15 minutes. Students are going to read page 64 individually and then complete the character organizer on activity page 10.2, where they write about Oberon, Titania, and Bottom. Answers are reviewed as a class, and then the teacher directs students to identify details in the text to support their answers. And they wrap up by posing a discussion question. Have the characters changed since we first saw them? If yes, how? Sorry, since we last saw them. Okay. So next, the teacher poses a discussion question about why Shakespeare didn't include many stage direction in his plays, and then goes on to explain that they are implied within the language of the play, and also how that can help us to understand the scenes. The class reads the Act 3, Scene 1 excerpt. Students are assigned characters but remain seated so that all students can underline unknown words and phrases and circle lines or phrases that imply stage directions. Readers are switched periodically so that many students get a chance to read, with section breaks suggested as a good place to make the switch. After reading page 66, the teacher should pause and ask students what action moments they marked and how they knew there was action there. They'll repeat again as a check for understanding after reading pages 68 to 70. So students continue reading with the teacher pausing about every 2 pages and asking what action moments they marked and how they knew there was action there. If necessary, continuing to stop at the end of each section to review for struggling students. Okay, then they'll move on to prepare for performance for 15 minutes. Students will turn to activity page 10.3, which is the entire lesson 10 passage split into the mini scenes that students will rehearse and perform during lesson 11. Students are divided into their lesson 11 mini scene groups for rehearsing and performing the next day, and assigned a mini scene and each student a role. Students work as a group to go through their excerpt and mark three places they feel need physical action. So either movement around the stage or a physical gesture of some sort. These may be spots that have already been marked for action or words or sentences that seem particularly important. Students are told they will apply the key questions to their mini scenes in the next lesson, but they should remember that they can use these tools right away if they are having trouble understanding something in their excerpts. As a check for understanding, the teacher will ask students to explain their actions and or gestures and remind them to think about the adjectives used to describe the characters. They'll also ask struggling students questions as needed, such as how does the character feel, to prompt their thinking. Alternately, the teacher could distribute 5 sticky notes to each group and have each group's members write the names of the characters in their scene on them. As students read through their mini scenes, they would move the sticky notes around the page to indicate when characters move closer to and farther from each other. Okay, next component is writing the woods outside Athens for 15 minutes. Students will turn to activity page 10.4 and the teacher will read the prompt and instructions aloud. Okay, so for number 1, it says an Athenian is considering going on a vacation to the forest. Based on the experiences the characters have, what kind of a vacation do you think they might have if they traveled in the woods? Think about the adjectives you might use to describe the woods and the adjectives you might use to describe a trip there. Would it be relaxing, adventurous, scary, exciting, luxurious, exotic, or something else? Think of a character in a moment from the play that illustrate the adjectives you chose. On the lines below, write the name of the character and describe the moment. Write adjectives, character, moment. Okay, so adjectives, character, moment. Then for number 2, write a 2-paragraph visitor's guide to the woods outside Athens that includes your adjectives. In the first paragraph, imagine what the woods outside Athens might look like. Use descriptions in the text as guidelines, but add details. Your forest does not have to be realistic. After all, this is the home of the fairies. What might you see there? What kinds of plants and flowers grow there? So in the second paragraph, that's where they'll write a second paragraph. Offer a visitor some suggestions for activities and things to look out for. What are the attractions of the woods outside Athens? Why should you go there? What should you be careful of? And then number 3, illustrate your guide or draw a map of the forest. The teacher should remind students to use evidence from the text in writing their paragraph, and then have students complete the activity. Hey, for their take-home material, students will review their parts in their mini scenes, including reading their lines aloud several times. And then an optional take-home activity is for students to make a bottom's head mask or costume component for the next lesson's performance. The teacher will remind students that the head needs to be something an actor can wear to show Bottom's transformation, but that it must not cover the actor's mouth, as Bottom needs to be able to talk. Students should be encouraged to be creative. The teacher will tell them, we know that Bottom is monstrous and strange, but otherwise there are no details about how he looks in this scene. As we know, it's a very magical forest, so who knows how crazy Puck went. Alternately, they could have students create their Bottom's head during recess or art class if that's an option. Or the teacher could skip this altogether and just bring in something simple to represent the donkey's head, such as a baseball cap with ears taped on it. Right? And that concludes lesson 11. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.